Hi and welcome to Dusty Book Sniffers. I'm Nicole and today we are here for my Read Around the World challenge. Good morning or good evening, no matter where you are in this big wide world. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and spending it with me. If you are new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and then that way you're not going to miss out on any of my bookish uploads. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back and thank you so much for taking your time out of your day and spending it with me while I prattle on about the books that I've read. All right, so today we are here for the next installment in my Read Around the World challenge. I am trying to get a book a week read, but it's not happening for me because I'm struggling in finding books that have been translated or from an author from that country, if not both. I'm really pushing myself out of my comfort zone and trying to find some really good books. So I have had a couple turn up that I'm going to be reading this in the month of June, and possibly also in July, depending how busy I am. Excuse me. So yeah, I do have a couple there, and one is one that I have to go back to, and that's Angola. I could not get that book here, and so once I've read that, I will film and then I'll put it up straight away. But today we are here for Angola, so this is where I had to skip, and then I've gone to this one. So Angola, this is by an author named Jose. I am not even going to try and pronounce his last name, but I will put it up on the screen for you so you can see who it is. I've got my notes in front of me, and the book is called A General Theory of Oblivion. Now, this book has been translated from Portuguese. He writes in Portuguese, and he will get into a little bit about the author at the sort of towards the end of the video. So this book was one that came up on a Google search and had pretty good shelvings on Goodreads. So it was definitely about Angola or set in Angola. So it was definitely met that prompt. It only had 250 pages, so it was a nice quick read. And it was published in 2012, and it is generally, it is a bit of a historical fiction from his point of view, because his genre that he writes in is Angolan history. So yeah, he sort of falls into that genre of historical fiction, and it is set around the independence of Angola, and it is following a story of Luda, who is very much a recluse. Now, something happened to her and caused her, because she wasn't always like that, and something happened, and he sort of alludes to that at the beginning, but you don't quite find out what it was till right at the end of the book. So there is a little bit of a mystery happening why she's like this, and she is a recluse. As I said, she lived with her parents up until her parents passed away. Then she went to live with her sister. Subsequently, her sister was still going out, working, all that sort of stuff, meeting people and whatnot. Subsequently, she met her future husband, and he wanted to move to Angola. They started in, I didn't write that down. Where did they start? I think they started in Italy is where they started. And so because Ludo is Italian for Lou. So basically, or her name is actually Louise, but they call her Lou throughout the book. So yeah, so basically they've essentially, she didn't want to move, and she really put up some fight against it, and essentially they drugged her to get her on the plane. They got her on the plane and they got her to Angola. They moved into his apartment, which was an absolutely beautiful apartment. It had a wonderful library in there for her, and so they just begun their life there. And it was around the time of the independence movement, so there was a lot of stuff happening in this book. All right, so once they got there, as I said, she had a beautiful library to fill in her days. She never left the house. She never went out. Her sister and her brother-in-law went about their business. And basically, she went about her business of being in the apartment. So she cleaned up and she kept herself busy by reading. His library had Spanish, French, German, and English books in it, so, and she could read all those languages. But yeah, as I said, she reluctantly ends up here, and because she was struggling a little bit, they got her a German Shepherd, which was a white German Shepherd. She named it Phantom, and that became her companion. And then there was, as I said, in the background, there was all of this stuff happening with the independence, and he seemed to be, the husband seemed to be up to no good. And as it turns out later on in the book, you find out what, like towards the end of the book, you find out what he got up to. Now, the way the book was set out, it was really paced very well. I love the fact that it was paced very well. And as I said, it has all these different characters all happening around the independence of Angola. So one chapter will be talking about one person, and then that'll end, but you don't really find out what exactly happened in all the chapters either. And then slowly but surely every chapter connects all the dots together until you get to the end of the book. Now, the biggest thing about this is we are seeing most of these things happen through her eyes. So she'll see something, so someone will walk past the apartment and stuff like that. And then it'll go on to a little bit of a story of what was happening with that crowd of people. Now, the reason why that is so prevalent in this book is because on the eve of the, about a week before the independence finally took hold, her sister and her brother-in-law go out and disappear. They don't come back. So she's been left in this apartment. She's got a lot of supplies because they had been stockpiling stuff and all the rest of it. So you don't know exactly what happened to them. They just leave the story. Okay. But it rounds up at the end. So don't think that that's the end of that. You don't know why. But that is significant to the book because she was left alone. She was worried. She was ringing people in the phone book, trying to find out where they were. No one had seen them and all the rest of it. She had plenty of supplies, so that was okay. She wasn't too worried. She didn't have to go out. And then the independence was happening. There was lots of gunfire and all that sort of stuff happening. And subsequently, some no good guys came into her apartment building and belted on her door and were threatening her. Subsequently, in the week that they had been, I think it was about a week, maybe a week and a half, that they had been gone before this event happened of these people knocking on her door, she had gone through things trying to find where they might have gone and stuff like that, and she found a handgun. So they were belting on the door, trying to get in, and because she was so frightened of people and frightened of being in the outside world, she basically opened the door with the gun in the hand, and basically they were trying to barge their way in. Or she was at the door telling them to go the way, and they were trying to barge their way in, and subsequently she shot one of these particular people. Now, this is a little bit spoilery. She shot the person, and the other guys ran away, and she was like mortified that she had done this. Like, she opened up the door and realized that she had injured this man and he was going to die. So I don't know why, but she freaked out, and she dragged him in, and she had a little like I envisioned it as a courtyard, but even though it was upstairs, it was still very large, the veranda that she had, or the patio or whatever. But I envisioned it sort of like a courtyard style thing. So she had gardens and all that sort of stuff. She buried him in the garden on the patio. So that was a little bit weird. I'm like, okay, I don't know where this is going to go, but all right. But then after she done that, she bricked up the doorway. But later on, I felt like it was a little bit away from the doorway. It was more like the hallway. So you'd come up to the stairs and there was just this brick wall. And so, and the people that lived in the apartment after this event happened used to hear the dog barking and a woman crying and stuff like that. So they thought that that end of the apartment was a little bit haunted. So yeah, and so she was seeing all this stuff. She was listening to snippets of what was happening with the independence on the BBC radio, and she was also seeing people walk past and things happen outside of her veranda. But no one ever knew that. No one questioned the fact that there may be someone up there and all the rest of it. And so Yeah, so each chapter just goes on from little snippets that she see, and then there's a little story, and then it doesn't quite end, and then, a couple of chapters down, someone will say something, and then it'll bring this character from this chapter down into this one, and it just kept going on like that. So she was in here for 30 years before someone actually found her, and so after she done that, she went through all her stores of food and flour and rice and all that sort of stuff, and she had tin food and whatnot. She started growing vegetables on the patio, or the, I don't know, like a courtyard. There was also was it a banana, or I think it was a pomegranate tree that was near, or a banana tree, because I read this a few weeks ago. So it was either, maybe both. There was a tree that went up past her courtyard, and there at one stage there was a monkey in it, and and like there's all this stuff going on in this book. It was a really good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I just loved how, what you read in chapter 1 or chapter 2 was then finalized down, chapter 20 or something, because that person knew that person, and it was all intertwined and all that sort of stuff. And I absolutely loved it. So I ended up giving it a 4-star rating. And yeah, it just flowed really well. I didn't get bored in this story at all. And I think it was because of the way the author actually, done the chapters and how they all intertwined and all the rest of it, and he finished off the book so well, because at one stage I'm like, oh my god, this woman has been in here for 30 years. So much has happened in that 30 years, and even some stuff that she done changed the lives of people that were out in the real world and stuff like that. And I don't want to give it away, but it was really, really good. And after she started running out of food and stuff like that, and like she burnt furniture and the books that she had read and all the rest of it for fire and all that sort of stuff, and she slowly burned her furniture and the coal from the fire, she started writing on the walls of, how she was feeling. So essentially the walls of this unit became her diary, for lack of a better term, or journal, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, so there was that element to it as well. They didn't really go into what she wrote on that until a little bit later into the book, but she was doing all that. And then when she started to run low on food, she started trapping pigeons, like she was growing vegetables, and she was trapping pigeons and stuff like that. And it goes through all that, and the dog lived a lot longer than what he should have, because he wasn't eating as much. He was on rations as she was. And so yeah, it was just a really, really interesting book, and how it was all set out and everything, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm sure you will too. Like, if you like that sort of thing where it's got a little bit of history about what's going on in that particular country, and you like how things can be all put in and woven, it is sort of like following different timelines and stuff like that. So when a character comes into the book, you might end up going back to 1963, or for argument's sake, I don't know if that is a date in there, but you might go back to 1963 for argument's sake, and then it'll talk about what happened with that person and how they ended up where they are today when she has seen them, or what's happened past that day that she's seen them walking past, or she heard something about the things that were going on and whatnot. So yeah, overall it was a really good book. I'm really, really happy that I chose to read this one. This particular author, from what I can see, only has 3 works that have been published or translated thus far into English, and he predominantly writes in Portuguese. So and from what I can tell, Daniel Hahn is his translator, so he seems to have translated most of his books. He was born in Jose was born in Angola, and he was born to white Portuguese settlers, and he is a native to Humbaro, I think is how you pronounce it. He currently resides in Lisbon in two locations, Lisbon and Laudana. And as I said, he writes in Portuguese. He has a collection of short stories, novels, novellas, and he is a journalist too. So he has done a few collaborations with photographers and stuff like that to document different things that have happened in that particular country and whatnot. So as I said, he's got 28 works in total, but I could only find 3 that have been translated into English. And Daniel Hahn seems to be his translator for his works, and so his genre is also Angolan history, which I think I mentioned earlier. He has won several prizes. He won for his Book of Chameleons, which is one that is translated. He's won a prize, an award for that in 2007, and that is what was the Independent Foreign Fiction Press award that was, and that is specifically for works that have been translated into English. And I believe for this particular book he won the International Dublin Literary Award in 2017 in conjunction with Daniel Hahn, because that I believe that award recognizes both the author and the translator. And so and the 3 books that he has are Book of Chameleons, My Father's Wives, and this one, the General Theory of Oblivion, that are all translated into English because they're the only ones that I could find. So yeah, that's a little bit about him. And he's 61 years old, and that's basically it on this particular book. So as I said, I have to go back and read the Andorra one because that came in, and I believe that one is called Wildcard. So I'm actually going to be starting that today, which I'm looking forward to it. It's not a very long book. So I'll get that filmed and get that up for you ASAP, and then I can continue on. I already have my other books moving on from this one. So, all right, that's it from me today. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up down below for this video. If you want to join in the fun, you can join the Discord. We have a little section in there for people that are doing this challenge. We also have a free printable download for you that you can tick off the countries that you've done. You can, as I said, you can join me. You can join in the discussion. We've got a few people that aren't actually doing videos because they aren't on Booktube, but they're joining in the fun as well and letting us know what books they're reading. I'm actually getting quite a collection of books to read from different countries around the world, and and I'm reading it from A to Z. And we have another booktuber, Amanda from the Reading and Writing Life. She is coming back the other way, so eventually we will pass like ships in the night each other. So so she's coming backwards. So she started at Z and working her way backwards. I started at A and working my way forwards. All right, that is it from me today. I've prattled on enough about this. I need to get on with the rest of my day. Hope you're having a fabulous day wherever you're watching from. And as always, leave me a comment down below. Tell me if you've read anything by this author. I would actually love to know what his other books are about if you've read them. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and then that way you won't miss out on any of my future book uploads. And I will see you again next time. Bye for now.